I described Ole Miss's win to somebody on Saturday as the most boring, thorough, comprehensive annihilation of a pretty good but not great football team. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, and an impressive win, 45-10 the score, for those of you that didn't see it. But yes, and what's impressive about that game, too, is I had somebody DM me and say, I thought you said Tulane was good. They don't really look good today. And it was an Ole Miss fan. And I thought, that is the weirdest fan behavior to me, is the overrated chant or whatever, because Tulane is good. That is it. They have 2 Power 4 wins already. They're going to contend for a playoff spot from the G6. They are one of a handful of teams. Memphis now has entered that conversation. USF is in that conversation. UNLV is in that conversation, but they're one of those. That is a very well-coached, really good football team for that level. LSU is going to be better this Saturday. Oklahoma is going to be better, and so on. But Ole Miss, from start to finish, after an emotional win over Arkansas and before LSU comes to town, weird spot on the schedule for a quality opponent like that, and annihilation's the right word. From the second that ball was kicked off, Ole Miss was not losing that game. They thoroughly dominated Tulane, and that is noteworthy considering the spot on the schedule and how good Tulane can and will be this season. Dominated from start to finish, and that's really impressive.
I think so, too. Just quickly on the C Spire text line from Louis, he says, with all the intriguing matchups that Ole Miss and Arkansas have had over the years, Oklahoma, really Oklahoma. Louis, I just need you to put a bookmark there and stick with us this afternoon. I promise you I'm going to try to explain rationale on why you got or why you're getting what you're getting in terms of the new SEC schedule. We're going to do that with College Football Fix at 5 o'clock. Thorough, Borky. I mean, it was total offense, another yard with over 500, another game with over 500 yards, 548 yards, 241 on the ground, 307 through the air. Trinidad Chambliss was solid. Ole Miss punted it one time for 54 yards. Field goal kicking was perfect, including what looked like an effortless 54-yard field goal, just right down the gut.
No hyperbole, would have been good from 64, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, it just, defense, it was a little bend, but no, I mean, if you're looking for something where you're like, you gave up 178 yards on the ground, and that's kind of been the bugaboo for the Ole Miss defense through 4 games. They're giving up too many yards on the ground. But Tulane went for it on 4th down 3 times, and they were 0 for 3.
Yeah, all in the second half as well.
It was kind of that bend but don't break deal. I mean, they gave up yards between the 20s, and then they kind of clamped down at the end. They give up a kind of a garbage time touchdown, with 6 or 7 minutes left in the ball game.
Yeah.
It was thorough, and it was decisive, and whatever question you had about bad spot on the schedule or trap game or, better take Tulane seriously, they did. They took Tulane seriously, far more so than the crowd did. I mean, the announced attendance for the game was 644. I would say there were legitimately 60,000 people there, at least like at the midway point of the first quarter. It thinned out. It was hot. At times there was some cloud cover. At times it was like the third quarter was just like sun just baking on the east side. And the crowd was flat, but the team wasn't. And it wasn't one of those days where, the team kind of relied on the crowd to get them going. I mean, the crowd was there and cheered, but it sounded like a crowd of 40,000, not 60,000. And I think you understand why. But all in all, just, I mean, real, like if you're giving a letter grade for Ole Miss against Tulane, I mean, it is a solid A for that performance on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. And you can get really nitpicky if you'd like, and maybe you should, considering the price of poker is going to go up this week. But
that's my line. You stole that one.
Yeah, maybe so. But defended the read option much better. And Retzloff is not Talon Green, and Tulane doesn't have the same.
No, but he's good and
players.
he's mobile.
And he was completely ineffective. One completed pass in the first half, really good, I suppose, is he did it again. Trinidad Chambliss, yet again, was really good for Ole Miss. 17 of 27 for 307 and a pair of touchdowns. Should have been 18 for 27 and about 367 and 3 touchdowns. But Trey Wallace, the reliable Trey Wallace, dropped an easy, wide-open touchdown pass in stride. Just dropped the football.
It's all good. Last year that happened against LSU.
Yes.
They just decided to get that out of their system this year before playing LSU, so he should be good for this coming Saturday.
And he ran for another 112 on just 14 attempts. Lacey added 68 on 18 attempts. Ole Miss in the last 2 games has struggled running the football without, like when it's not Trinidad, the numbers aren't eye-popping, but isn't that kind of the point, is the dynamic that Trinidad adds with his legs creates so much for this offense, and credit to Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr., who gets all hate and no love. The offense has been really creative, and they use his strengths, and Trinidad's using the full field, and he's hitting his checkdowns, and there's a couple of throws that probably could have been picked with a better play, but they weren't mistake throws. It was just 2 underthrown footballs. Yet another really smart performance from Trinidad Chambliss, where he protected the football and did a lot of really good things. Again, the price of poker is going to go up. He will face a significantly better football team on Saturday than he has in each of the last 2 games. But, he's doing it. Look at what he did yet again.
You have 241 yards rushing. I don't know that you really care how you get them.
It doesn't matter because your quarterback is adding 112 on 14 attempts. It's great.
5.7 yards per carry, so you are averaging a first down every 2 carries on the ground. And Trinidad Chambliss, it's not that he picked his spots. Obviously his feet, his legs are part of the game plan when he is on the field, but I thought he avoided big hits, right? He does a good job not taking the big hits, sliding when he needs to, getting to the pylon, getting out of bounds, and not taking that big hit. He's not the biggest guy by any stretch of the imagination. He have one ball that was batted down at the line, 1 or 2, or did I make that up?
There's at least one.
Okay.
Would have been a touchdown, too. Receiver was open. Great play from the Tulane defensive lineman to read the eyes and bat the ball down. But
he seems to make adjustments with arm slot to, kind of get it out. If it needs to be, get it to a back. He utilized a bunch of different receivers. Deuce Alexander had 4 catches. Daquan Wright had 3. Jean Strembling had 3. Caden Lee had 2. Watkins had 1. Trey Wallace had just 1 catch. That might be the surprise of the game. And then you had 3 for Kewan Lacey as well. It's kind of a safety valve out of the backfield. And there should have been another touchdown pass to Daquan Wright. Did they end up getting it to him like 2 plays later for the touchdown? Because they ran a little pop pass in the end zone, and he was wide open.
Yeah, they did.
That's when he made the really hard catch in the end zone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Reviewed it, and it was a catch. They got the review correct. But that creates this dynamic, right? And it's fascinating because Lane Kiffin today, and we'll play that for you tomorrow, said when Simmons is 100%, he's our starting quarterback. That is what he said verbatim, but wouldn't reveal his plans about this weekend because they don't know what percent that he is.
Not 100.
It's not 100. And so my question is not necessarily about Saturday because I would be surprised if Trinidad did not start and play this game.
Hey Borky, one thing on that before you go down that road. I don't know how many people noticed this because I doubt you caught it on television. When Ole Miss came onto the field, leading them onto the field was 13. Now, he had on long sleeves, but he kind of ran out to midfield and then turned around and kind of, high five, low five, whatever, everybody But I thought just jogging in a straight line, he didn't appear to be favoring anything. I've talked to some people that have said it's not so much straight line running. It's the cuts, right? It's when he has to make that sudden cut to try and make a guy miss in the hole, or he's rolling one way or the other, that's where it doesn't look like it is close to 100%.
Yeah. And so with that being the case, and especially against this LSU defensive front, I don't think you can go with the immobile guy at the moment because of injury anyway.
Yeah.
But there's two sides to it, right? Trinidad's facing the best defense he's ever played in his life on Saturday. And they're really good, by the way. LSU's defense is really good. I think this could be a very low-scoring game, which could be to his benefit with his play style. He won't feel like he has to force the football, and he can play smart. But if he struggles, then it's very easy after the bye week to go back to Austin Simmons. That's an easy thing. But what happens if he plays well and they win?
You know what's not easy?
What happens if he plays well and they win? And look,
that injury lingers a little bit longer in terms of getting back to 100%. That's what happens.
And then you've got the bye week and then Washington State, which would be a nice game to bring Simmons back. But the dynamic that creates, what happens if you go to Athens, and now you're talking playoffs, right, in this scenario? If you beat LSU, you're talking playoffs. Finish the season with 2 losses, and you're in. You make the playoffs. What happens when you go to Athens and you start the game with a couple of interceptions like you did in Lexington?
Then you go back to Trinidad Chambliss.
And then what happens if he struggles? Do you keep flip-flopping quarterbacks and all? It creates something that you have not yet seen under Lane Kiffin because you haven't had quarterback injuries like this. And
I say you go back to Trinidad Chambliss, but maybe we got to learn from history also. And that's the trust that Lane Kiffin has in quarterbacks. You remember that with Matt Corral, the awful game in Fayetteville, and he was like, "You're our guy. You're our guy. We're sticking with you." Hey, Dad, I've heard you say in the past about Lane Kiffin, you just kind of assume the offense is going to be okay. He's kind of earned the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I feel like you almost extend that conversation to quarterback play, and you say, look, it's depending on how you want to look at it, it's either an unenviable position to be in where you got to decide which guy, or it's a great position to be in because you believe that you have a guy who was your starter who's got outstanding arm talent and really impressive intangibles, but you've also got a guy who has won at every level that he's ever played and has a ton of experience. It's almost like you just kind of give Lane Kiffin the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what, quarterback play at Ole Miss has been really, really good under him. And he's going to figure it out.
We talked a little bit about it on Friday where we said, let's say they stick with Chambliss and whatever, and Simmons decides, okay, well, I don't want to be at Ole Miss anymore. And people will say, well, that's a terrible thing for the future. I just disagree because I just believe that Lane Kiffin will always get good quarterbacks. He's just always going to have them.
He found one from Ferris State, of all places.
Exactly. And quarterbacks want to play in his system. If the Ole Miss starting job is up for grabs, big-time quarterbacks will get into the portal to go to try to play at Ole Miss. So, I'm just not going to be surprised that Chambliss is working out because he has an eye for quarterbacks, and he knows what he's looking for. He finds guys that can run his system. He finds different guys that can do different things but are still successful. Simmons and Chambliss aren't the same player, the same way Simmons and Dart weren't the same player, the same way Corral and Dart weren't the same player, but they were all successful. Well, what's the common denominator? It's Lane Kiffin and his offense, and I don't think offense is going to be an issue for Ole Miss. No matter what, the only thing that's going to derail them is if there becomes some sort of locker room issue, which I don't see happening either, because it seems like Simmons is a pretty head on the shoulders right guy, and we'll sort of see where it goes from there. I think Ole Miss has enough culture and foundation built in that they'll be okay with whatever the decision is.
I do think that's a reasonable question, and even if you don't have a cultural divide within your locker room, guys are like, hey, we've been winning with this guy. Like,
yeah,
has he won the team? Has he won the locker room? Is it Austin Simmons' team? I will say that it appears that both of these players individually seem like pretty good guys and guys that their teammates like, and they seem to say the right thing and do the right thing. I mean, does that mean that if Austin Simmons gets healthy, he doesn't want to play? Absolutely not. Does it mean that Trinidad Chambliss doesn't feel like he's earned the right to continue to play as long as he's healthy? No, it doesn't mean that either. but it does mean it doesn't at least appear that either of them is a turd. And you don't want turds on your football team, especially at the quarterback position. That was one of the nicer ways I could describe it. Hey, Dad.
You did good. You did good.
Thank you. All right. So